When did you notice that in him, that he wanted to bring everyone along with him?
He's one of the best teammates I've ever been around. And so he always had that kind of leadership ability that kind of separated him from everybody else. I mean, there's no question he's a great talent, but he's even a better leader. And I think he's always had that even as a young 14-year-old.
Let me preface my comments by saying I think that LeBron James is one of the greatest players ever. I think that he belongs on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. He's a great leader. He's a great player. He's a great humanitarian as far as I'm concerned. So any question that I ask, let me get that out the way so everybody understands that. I must ask you, however, we watched them lose the finals to Dallas. There were questions about his willingness to accept that leadership role. This year, I watched this, and my only issue with LeBron in these finals has nothing to do with his game. Believe it or not, my issue is with the attitude. You beat Boston, and the first words out of your mouth when somebody asks you about the Golden State Warriors, I don't want to address them because it's too stressful. Those are not words that I'm accustomed to hearing from champions. Can you explain to me what the thinking is coming from the LeBron James that you know, when words like that come out of his mouth, when we all suspect that that might not be what his teammates need to hear at that particular moment in time?
Well, I think sometimes people say things that they might not really mean.
Okay.
I mean, I think one thing I can tell you is he's a very competitive person. I think he also has a knack of knowing how to push buttons with people. So while he may say something at one point, he has this unique ability to be a basketball genius and a leadership genius as well. So he might say something that might not make sense, but it might make sense to him.
Did that, as his coach in high school, especially considering you mentioned basketball genius, usually someone who's as great as LeBron, their talent isolates them in a way, right? Like they seem miserable in a way, like Michael Jordan or Larry Bird, or you get the feeling like their competition overwhelms them, and it's all kind of encompassing. That's what they're about. LeBron James has not let his talent isolate him, and he's used it, as I said, to uplift people. As his coach, when did you notice that? And was there anything you did to try to nurture that, or was that just something that you just left alone?
Well, I think, again, he has this unique ability, kind of an old school person. He has this commitment to his people. And even with us, you know, we have the shoe deal at Akron. We had it at Duquesne now. He could have left St. V many, many times and gone to different prep schools, but he stayed with his guys. And again, I think that's a uniqueness about him that other people don't have.
How do you coach that, though? As you get something so talented and his instincts are so good, how do you coach that?
Well, I don't think you coach it. You just constantly just hold him accountable and have high expectations for him. And I think that's the one thing about LeBron is he just has it. You know, some people have it and some people don't, but you just have to make sure that you hold him to the highest level, and he's always allowed me to do that with him.
Coach,
I was getting ready to ask that question. Does a player like him, are you capable of holding him accountable? Because based on everything that you've said, he's pretty damn close to perfect. So how do you hold somebody like that accountable where there's so few flaws in the eyes of so many people as it pertains to him?
Well, Stephen A., I think, as you know, most of the great ones want to be held accountable and want to be coached. And I think at times people have been a little scared to coach him. But again, I had him at a very young age, 14, 15. He listened to me. But I think people that have tried to coach him have been successful, and people that have been a little scared haven't been.
Coach, we had Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy here the other day. Stephen A. also talked about this, saying that in that fourth quarter of Game 3, he needed to be more assertive. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, again, you have to put people in position to be successful, and I think, obviously, he has to be assertive. Now, he's going to be assertive in a different way than Kobe and Michael, and people can pick and choose and say, hey, he should pass this one or shoot this one, but LeBron's always going to make the right basketball play. He's always going to make the play that he thinks is appropriate at the right time, and that might be a different a set of ways that he does it versus Michael or Kobe. They may be a little more score-oriented. He may be a little bit more like Magic Johnson and be pass-oriented.
I do think the right basketball play is, it sounds silly, like is the right thing to do, and he seems to always make that. But the debate really, when you get down to it for him right now is being perfect actually the right thing, or is imperfect for him right now the right thing? In other words, even if the defense is you know, in the paint and the best defenders are there, should he continue to make the right basketball play as though it's a low leverage situation, or should he try to take it into his own hands as a scorer because he's good at that, Coach? Would imperfect be better than perfect for him right now?
Well, I think that's a twofold question. I agree with Stephen A. when he says that he should be in the low post and the high post and getting into those areas to preserve energy and still get his players involved. But I absolutely also think that when he drives the ball to the rim, if guys converge, he has to make the right basketball play. So I think there's some things he can tweak to do better, but he's always going to try to do it the right way and lead his team to victory. And I think you'll see that again in Game 4.
Am I wrong in surmising that the great ones figure out a way not to be one-dimensional? Like, for example, doing things the right way. Because, you know, listen, I consider myself a disciple of Larry Brown, for crying out loud. I covered Larry Brown, I covered John Chaney, played for Big House Games. The great John McClendon was his mentor, my mentor. I'm looking at a guy in LeBron James that does things the right way, but believe it or not, the right way may not necessarily be the right thing to do, because what you want to do is also demoralize the competition, which I've seen him do from time to time. Have you found yourself looking at your former pupil and literally saying, I know it's the right thing to do, but I wish you would just say to hell with everything and just take over? Have you found yourself like that?
Well, I think when you're up against the odds that he's up against right now, that he's going to have to change gears, and I agree with you. He's going to have to do things a little bit differently than he may be accustomed to. That's what all of us have to do at some point. We have to readjust our plan and try to do the things that are necessary. Now, obviously, the plan was good enough to win Game 3. Now, it might have to be tweaked a little bit to win Game 4, and then I think at some point he's got to figure out a way then to win Game 5. And I think that's what great leaders and great people do and great players do. So it's going to be a big test for him, obviously, but he's capable of the challenge.